Welcome back to the Point Guard Cast with your host Sean and Corey. Corey,
I'm Sean. What's up, brother? How you been? I'm good. It's good to be back.
Good. I know. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's
been a couple months. Had a lot of people that reached out to us though and said that they missed us. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate all the love, but we'll be back. We're back. We'll continue to be back. We'll have some episodes throughout the summer and the off season, going into next season. We'll be back on it.
Right. Really didn't mean to take a hiatus like this. Kind of just how life
it wasn't
worked
on
out
purpose.
these last couple months. Yeah, we just been kind of busy, but we have a lot of stuff planned for the summer. A lot of episodes planned, so we should be good. But we are fresh off that NBA Finals.
Yep, we have a new champion. That's an old champion.
Right, Golden State Warriors won. How did you feel about this finals overall? That's what I want to know. How did you feel about it?
I think the finals. Okay. It was, I'm a Lakers fan, so I was watching it from the perspective of like, I wish both of these teams can lose, but I chose the lesser two evils. Actually won, in my opinion. I was happy to see Steph Curry finally get his Finals MVP. That's been eluding him for the last 3 championships. I think he put himself in a position where he could talk about. He's already the greatest shooter ever. People want to put him in the top 10 all time. I really don't care about rankings like that. If you want to say he's top 10 all time, you can. That's your prerogative. But I think he put himself at the table, at least with those guys, with this championship and Finals MVP he got.
Okay, I see that.
But the series overall, game 1 was kind of an anomaly. Was that the word I'm looking for? Because you knew that the Celtics wasn't going to hit that many shots again. You knew Al Horford wasn't going to put the team on his back like Al Horford put his team on his back. Jayson Tatum proved he's still a young player that needs to mature a little bit more. He had a lot of turnovers in this series. He didn't shoot very well. He didn't close very well.
Right.
But I think this Celtics team has what it takes to get back. Even next season, we'll see what he does. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green's podcast has been interesting since, everything's went down. Ja Morant, he going back and forth with the Grizzlies. They'll have their time too. The playoffs overall, they were fun, but they did have some dud games. There was a lot of blowouts, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. It was kind of weird. Which, I mean, it happens. So, but we'll talk about the entire playoffs in another episode. But my overall feeling. This question.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you got?
I think that what the question I'm going to ask should come after how you give your feelings on the final.
Okay, got you. So my overall feelings about the finals were I feel like. So I predicted the Warriors in 6, right? When you have.
As did I, by the way.
So when you have a team like the Warriors who have won 3 championships already, been to 5 finals before this one, got their main 3 pieces. You got Steph, Clay, Dre are all healthy, and you got the coach that you won those 3 previous championships with versus a team who is their first time in the finals, the head coach's first time in the finals. I don't know why you would feel as though the Celtics will win. Now, is there always a chance? Of course, there's always a chance that the underdog could win. But when they're this much of an underdog...
According to ESPN, though, ESPN FPI didn't have them. What is the F?
Is it BPI? I know what you're talking about.
Basketball Power Index?
Yeah, the BPI. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know why.
They had the Celtics has an 86% chance of winning.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Before the series started.
I think I tweeted that they needed to get rid of that system, and I stand by that because I don't know why they felt that way. That was kind of dumb to me. But it's a numbers thing. That's what it is.
Earlier in the series, though, it did look like the Celtics were kind of too big for the Warriors. The first couple games of the series.
Right. Which I could see, but this is my thing. Like you said, game 1 was kind of an anomaly. Boston won 120-108. And the Celtics had a phenomenal fourth quarter. Now, this is what I will say. Throughout these playoffs...
That fourth quarter was ridiculous. It was 40-18 or something like that. Crazy.
Yeah, they went on a crazy run, but they had a bad third quarter. So this is what I noticed about Boston, throughout these playoffs. They've had bad third quarters, throughout these playoffs, but then have had phenomenal fourth quarters, right? And that's a good and a bad thing. It's good because you know that, hey, come fourth quarter, we're going to turn up. But
it's bad because the game is 48 minutes long.
Right. And also, you've been able to get away with that having third quarters versus other teams. The Warriors aren't going to let you get away with that. The Warriors are known for their third quarters. So when you have bad third quarters and you're playing a team that has great third quarters and great fourth quarters, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I feel like in game 1, they were able to get away with it. Game 3, they got away with it a little bit too, right? But that game 4, when Steph went off and had like 43, I think it was. That fourth quarter was one of the best defensive fourth quarters that I think the Warriors have had.
Yeah, they proved they still could get down on defense. I want to give a shout out to a person that I also thought could have won Finals MVP. Andrew Wiggins did his thing in this series.
Yeah, for sure.
Andrew Wiggins proved that the trade that brought him there was no fluke. Well, not fluke, but was no mistake. Like, he earned himself some praise in that series. Shout out to Andrew Wiggins.
For sure. Since you brought him up, Andrew Wiggins, I think, averaged like 18 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And I think he averaged like a steal and a block, which is great. Like, he played, not only did he show up in certain games where they needed it, because I think it was like game 5 that they really
I'm not going to
him.
say he could have won Finals MVP, though. I would take that back, but he did play very well. Steph deserved Finals MVP, hands down.
Listen, once Steph dropped 43 in game 4, I said, listen, even if he has a bad game 5 and 6, which his game 5 was kind of bad, but if he had a bad game 5 and bad game 6, I knew he was going to win Finals MVP. And it was much deserved, because outside of game 4, game 4, Steph really put the team on his back. Like, he was on from the beginning to the end of the game. Like, that game, Steph was going crazy. He had like 43 points. He had 10 rebounds, 4 assists. He had 7 threes. He was like 7 to 14, so he shot like 50% from 3. He was 8 to 9 from the free throw line. He was like 50% from the field. Like, he was phenomenal. Pretty sure in the first quarter he had double digit. I think he had like 12 points in the first quarter and like 14 in the third quarter and like about 10 in the fourth. Like, he was going off in game 4. And he needed it because the rest of the team were kind of asleep. Like, without Steph doing what he did in game 4, this series probably does go to a game 7. Like, that, honestly, game 4 was a game that the Celtics should have won. But because of the defense that the 100%. Warriors played in the fourth quarter as a unit, along with Steph going off, it took the wind out of them. And I knew after Boston lost that game, when that was their game to win, I was like, okay, my prediction's right. The Warriors are winning this in 6. Hands down.
Yeah. Winning in Boston looks like it's fun. I want to do it.
You want the Lakers to win in Boston one time?
Yeah, like a deciding game in the finals in Boston to have the whole ceremony and everything in the middle of their court.
Right.
Hey, fun.
It might happen.
Want to try it.
It might happen one day. But yeah, I thought game 4 was a huge deciding factor for the series. Like, when the Warriors showed that, I think game 4 and 5. So game 4, again, Steph being hands down the best player on the floor for the Warriors. Even really on both ends, he played great defense in the series also. Like, even in that game 4 when he was unstoppable offensively, he actually played really good defense also. But for him to go off the way he did, and the Celtics, kind of keep the game close and their stars go off, but then for them to kind of, I can't even say the Celtics collapsed in the fourth quarters, because to me, it's really more about how well the Warriors played defense rather than how bad the Celtics played offense. That makes sense.
But yeah, it makes sense. But at the same time, you can't play that bad and it not be a collapse. Like, wouldn't you say the Warriors collapsed in the fourth quarter of game 1? Or was it the Celtics defense? Because the Celtics had good defense all season. But that was a collapse in the fourth quarter of game 1 for the Warriors.
It was more. It was. I would say it was a collapse, but also the Celtics hit a lot of tough shots. Like, they hit some crazy contested shots in that fourth quarter, though.
Yeah, the Warriors are champions for a reason. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, they really choked in the fourth quarter of game 1. You can't lose the fourth quarter of the finals game 40-18. It doesn't matter at this point right now that we're talking about it. But yeah, you can't do that.
Okay, I see what you mean. But I think more people are gonna say that, hey, the Celtics collapsed in the fourth quarters of games 4, 5, and 6, rather than saying the Warriors actually played some pretty good defense.
And you're trying to give the Warriors they're just doing defense. I understand.
Because the defensive difference from game 1 to games 4 through 6 is two different teams almost. And I feel like the numbers would also back that up. I don't have the numbers, but I feel like the numbers would back that up also. But they were a completely different defensive team in the fourth quarter of those last 3 games, especially in games 4 and 5. I just feel like that's what, they say defense wins championships. I feel like that's what helped them in games 4 and 5. Because game 4 was such a toss-up going into that fourth. Like, I really felt like it was Boston's game to win. Or Boston's game to lose, rather.
Yeah.
I felt like even though Steph was going off, Boston was still right there. And I felt like as a whole, Boston was playing better. It was really kind of just Steph through like the first 3 quarters. Mm-hmm. But then the Warriors woke up a bit in that game 4, especially on the defensive end, and they got the win. And so I just feel like that's kind of what changed the way that, first of all, it took the wind out of the Celtics first and foremost. I think that them losing that game when they knew it was their game to lose, it's when they lost the momentum of the series, in my opinion. They lost the momentum of it, and that's what also gave the Warriors the momentum. Having their star player go off for 43 and play phenomenal. And I feel like what further proves that is game 5. Steph had a terrible game 5. But you saw how everybody else started.
Like over 12 from 3, right?
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad offensively, I'll say. Offensively, it was horrible. But look at the way the Warriors rallied up. Look how everybody else stepped their games up. And to me, it started with defense rather than the offense with the Warriors. And I felt like that started in the fourth quarter of game 4 and carried over into game 5.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It tend to do that sometimes. That's why when it's a blowout in a finals game, the team that's losing will still try to keep their intensity throughout the game so it can carry over into the next game.
Right, exactly. And I felt like that's what the Warriors that's what they did best to close the series. And it wasn't how I predicted it. I think after it was tied up 2-2, I think there were a lot of people who were like, oh, this series is a toss-up. And I was like, kinda. But I don't know. To me, game 4 showed me that, I don't know why people thought the Warriors were about to be done, but the fourth quarter in that game 4 told me everything I needed to know, at least for me. I don't know about other people, but for me, that told me everything I needed to know. I was like, Steph is going off. Everybody else is kind of struggling, but that defense that they played, those last 3 minutes of that fourth, I was like, oh, yeah. That's all they need right here. They play like this, they win this series, and that's pretty much what happens in game 5 and 6. But it was still an entertaining finals though. I don't want to say it wasn't entertaining just because I felt like it was kind of predictable. It was entertaining. It was good to see. It was good to see a different team make it out the East. Right? It was good to see.
Is it really a different team? They got 17 championships.
I mean, true.
But
think about But also, make it out the East with this young core who 4 years ago was a couple minutes from making it out, and then they ran into LeBron James. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
So it was good to see them make it because there were a lot of people who doubted them. They saw that they couldn't make it in 2018. Then they saw how the last couple years went. To start this season, it didn't seem like Boston would be a contending team. The start of the year for them was bad.
No,
remember people were
they were under 500. They were
it was bad. Remember people were talking about possibly splitting up Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yep.
It was bad, and then they ended the season on fire. To me, I thought they were the best team in the East going into the playoffs. Wish we could have spoke about it, but we didn't get to. But they were on fire to end the season, and then to help prove that even further, they swept the Nets in the first round.
Yeah, they did.
And that was the only sweep of the playoffs.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was just good to see them, kind of, because a lot of people even doubted them after they swept the Nets. A lot of people were like, the Nets weren't that good anyway, blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, the Celtics are just solid.
Who do you think's road to the finals was tougher, the Warriors or the Celtics? But I think it was the Celtics.
Yeah, I think it was the Celtics too. Listen, after Dallas eliminated Phoenix, I tweeted out, "Congrats to Steph Curry on winning your fourth championship and your first Finals MVP." And I said that because it seemed like throughout the regular season, the most consistent team outside of the Warriors was the Suns. Not only that, it seemed like the only team that could beat the Warriors consistently was the Suns.
You think they would have beaten in the playoff series?
I think they had a chance, but then, I mean, the way that they played the Mavericks, it seems like no, of course. But just going based off the regular season, it seemed like, yes, that was the team that could beat the Warriors in the West.
Yeah, Suns keep proving time and time again the regular season barely matters when it comes to it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I fell victim to the regular season with them. It won't happen again. But we're not talking about that. But it's the Warriors, like the fact that this was their sixth finals appearance and they won 4 championships in 6 years. They won 2015, 2017, 2018, and then this year in 2022. It's crazy. Like, they are really a dynasty.
Yeah, speaking of dynasty, do you think this kick-started their dynasty from a couple years ago? Or do you think that's some other team from the West?
I feel like it did.
You think so? You think they can win multiple titles out of this?
I think that they can, but based off the way the NBA is right now, the way that the teams are right now, the players that are with certain teams right now, yes. But the thing is, the NBA constantly changes, right? People constantly move around, constantly getting certain draft picks that help teams out. So it's easy to say yes now, but we know for a fact next season there are going to be certain teams that aren't going to look the same.
Yeah, because like, who's to say that somebody like Minnesota doesn't take a Memphis-like jump, and Memphis doesn't take a Suns-like jump in the regular season?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. Like, Memphis may not have been able to get past Golden State this year, but you don't know what's going to happen next season.
Who knows?
Next season they could be Golden State's kryptonite. So that's the reason why I'm saying yes, because it's easy to say now, but could I be wrong later on? Oh, for sure. And to be honest, if I'm being honest, I'm saying yes because of right now, right? With them being fresh off winning it and everything. But I feel like I'm going to be proven wrong, though. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like again, I'm saying yes right now that this could kickstart the dynasty, but at the same time, I do feel like I'm low-key going to be wrong. But it's one of those questions where, of course, only time will tell. How do you feel about Steph Curry winning his first Finals MVP? First of all, I feel like it was worthy. Dude averaged 31. He averaged like 31 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Went off in Game 4. Had a legendary. That Game 4 was legendary. That 43 he dropped, it was being a 43-point double-double, having 10 rebounds. Like, that was a legendary game. Like, that's one of those games that we're going to reminisce on 20 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. The social media can finally shut up about it. But you know they won't. But they finally shut up about him not having a Finals MVP. I'm happy for him. Good job. Right. Good job.
I saw a picture. I think it was a tweet, and it was talking about Steph Curry is the only player in NBA history to win an All-Star MVP, or Western Conference Finals MVP, and a Finals MVP in the same season.
Oh,
and I was like, that's actually kind of significant. Like, I get it. People are gonna downplay the All-Star Game MVP, so I kind of get it. But I forgot, like, this was the first year of like the Eastern and Western Conference Finals MVPs. And he won it.
Yeah.
And although it's not significant to people now, 20 years from now, when there's like 19 other conference finals MVPs, it'll be more significant. You know what I mean? It's just not significant now to people because it's new, but
it should be significant. Think about it. It's the first one. He's the very first Western Conference Finals MVP.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying now, like, there's people downplaying it, kind of. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, people find ways to downplay anything, but people kind of downplaying it right now. But I'm like, in 20 years, that'll be pretty relevant. Like you said, he's the first one to do it. And then he was able to be the first one to win the Western Conference Finals MVP, and he was able to win the Finals MVP. There's going to be a lot of championships down the road where a team will have a one person be their Western Conference Finals MVP, and then another player be their Finals MVP.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go back to 2020 when the Lakers won, right? If they had a Western Conference Finals MVP, then I think Anthony Davis would have won it. And now LeBron.
It's about luck against the Nuggets. Yeah.
I think Anthony Davis would have won it. Now LeBron would have still probably gotten Finals MVP, but I don't think LeBron would have won Western Conference Finals MVP. You see what I'm saying? So that's just gonna be interesting to see.
AD hit the big shot in game. What was that? Game 2. He hit that big shot to win.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's going to be significant because I think there's going to be some players who, in years from now, they aren't going to win every single conference finals MVP.
Yeah,
they may win finals MVP, but they may have a teammate who wins conference finals MVP. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Especially the way the team was set up now. Like back in 2010, when the Lakers won and when Kobe won the Finals MVP, he probably would have been the Western Conference Finals MVP as well. No, actually, there's no doubt about it. He would have been the Western Conference Finals MVP as well. Right. But like in 2016, if they had it, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP could have been like Kyrie, and then LeBron won the Finals MVP or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's people try to downplay now, but it's going to be interesting to see, like, as the years go on, and as more people win the award. Seeing like
they should have been done that.
You know what? I said the same thing. I said they could have had this years ago, but it's all good. I mean, they're doing it now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was definitely much deserved. I still see people trying to question it, and I think people are just trying to troll Steph a little bit. But listen, when you average 31.2, you average 31 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and the next closest is Andrew Wiggins at 18 points, 8 rebounds. 2 assists, and you had a monster game 4 with 43 points, and you literally put the team on your back. You deserve Finals MVP, man. And he had a good game 6. He had a good closeout game. He put up 30 plus in that closeout game in game 6. So he deserved Finals MVP. I don't know why people are trying to downplay it and act like he didn't deserve it.
I'm gonna go off the grid a little bit since we kind of really talked about the finals in its entirety at this point. At what point do we start looking at scrutiny as like a sign of respect? Because like every great player, every great athlete goes through scrutiny. Like somebody has something to say to every great athlete. Is it fear? It's true. Like fear, respect for him, right? You just start looking at that different,
right? That's a valid point. You know, I kind of say that. I'm like, if you aren't great, people don't have anything to say.
Nobody's gonna care. Yeah, because nobody cares.
Right, exactly. So when you are great, people have things to say. That just means you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
You're doing the right. Yeah, you're doing something right.
So that's a very valid point.
Speaking of scrutiny, you heard about this Charles Barkley and Kevin Durant thing.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, basically Charles was like, OKD's not gonna. Charles Barkley, out of all people in the media that could have said this, he's not gonna get respect from old heads until he wins the championship as the bus driver. First of all, I kind of see both sides of this. I'm not a fan of Charles Barkley saying it because Charles Barkley never won a championship. So like, who does he like? Does old head respect him? Like, what are you talking about? First of all, secondly,
you're right.
There's no way that Kevin Durant wasn't the bus driver of those teams. It might not have been his bus, but he was driving that bus. If that makes sense.
That makes sense, and it's hard for me to disagree.
It was Steph Curry's bus, but Kevin Durant was driving that bus. He drove it both years.
Right.
And on the other perspective, that's the other perspective. It wasn't his bus. So like I get kind of what Charles Barkley was saying, but Kevin Durant was driving the bus. It just wasn't his bus. What do you think?
I think we need to have a whole episode on that because I feel like we could go in on Kevin Durant versus Steph Curry. Because to me, it's a very interesting conversation. To me, it could be more interesting than the GOAT debate, to be honest with you.
I don't necessarily think that a championship puts Steph Curry over Kevin Durant, in my opinion. I think that, like I said earlier in the episode, they're sitting at the same table. Why does it matter who's above who? How do you even calculate who's above who? You're sitting at a table of greatness with other greats. You can't really say this player is better than this player. These players never played against each other. You don't know. I mean, I know that people are like unanimous. LeBron and Michael Jordan are like 1 and 2, however you want to spice it. But that's as far as I'm going.
Right.
I'm not going to say maybe Kareem at 3. I'll maybe put Kareem at 3. But after that, you could have. I wouldn't argue with you if you had Tim Duncan. I wouldn't argue if you had Bill Russell. I wouldn't argue if you had Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Like you, Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain. Like you can't really. You can go. Yeah. We can go in depth on that too. That's probably a whole different episode too.
You know what that is? I'm glad you brought that up because that for sure is. But yeah, I saw.
But yeah, they sit at the same table.
See, I'm glad you said that. That's a good point. But the way that
Charles Barkley is nowhere near that table.
That's a fact.
He might have been on his way to the table, and if he would have got a couple championships, he would have been sitting at the end of the table too. But he wasn't the person. He just sounds like a hater. That's my problem with not necessarily what he said, but it was him saying. And I think it's the way it was worded too, because like I said, Kevin Durant was driving that bus. It just wasn't his bus. He was borrowing the car. He went out of town borrowing somebody else's car, but he drove. And he drove it efficiently and he drove it well.
You know what? Since you put it like that, that's kind of what a lot of people have said about Steve Kerr and taking over the Warriors after Mark Jackson was let go.
No, I mean, I guess you could put it that way. See, I mean, Mark Jackson kind of set the foundation. But do you think they would have actually won championships with Mark Jackson? If you're on the side that, do you think that Mark Jackson would have got them 4 championships?
I kind of do.
Okay.
I do, but we don't have to go in depth.
So let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Why doesn't Mark Jackson have a job right now then?
Now, that's a good question. I don't know what he's saying in these interviews, but I also know that he's turned down some jobs, though. Like, I don't know if he wants to do it that bad. Like,
that's probably like the Kings. You think he's just content with his role on ESPN?
I think it might be. I think because I mean he's been like, it seems like every year there's a team interested in him, and sometimes it'll say that he's been interviewed, but then other times it'll say like he's turned it down or you'll hear nothing else about it. You know what I mean? So I think that he's only looking for certain places, and I think he's just content with where he is. But I'll be honest, after this,
and he does have a job. I'm sorry. He has a job.
Right. No, I know what you mean.
He's doing a very good job.
Yeah, no, he is. That's what I'm saying. But that's what I mean. Like, I think he's just satisfied with what he's doing because he's so good at being a commentator. He's so entertaining, and people love to hear him and Van Gundy together that, like, he don't have to be a head coach. I just feel like people didn't say the same thing about Steve Kerr and his commentary, but that doesn't matter because look at him as a coach. Like, I forgot this.
And he probably got PTSD from it. Like they kind of did him dirty.
You I
don't know how much he deserved it, but I don't know.
You got a point there. But like I forget that Steve Kerr even won rings with the Spurs.
Yeah,
he's got 5 championships as a player and 4 as a head coach.
Yeah, he has not. Steve Curry like in Phil Jackson territory, like Phil Jackson,
Right.
Bill Russell territory on Horn.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he has 5 as a player, which I completely forgot about. Won 3 with the Bulls, and then he won 2 with the Spurs, and now he's won 4 as a head coach. Like, that's the only reason why when you brought that up about the bus and kind of like it was, a lot of people I feel like made that same comparison with Steve Kerr and Mark Jackson, but I feel like, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of one of those people.
Okay, but if it wasn't Steve Kerr's bus to start with, it's definitely Steve Kerr's bus now.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's the reason why I'm saying that. Right, that's the reason why I was bringing it up, because I was like, listen, if anybody had any doubts now about like him really running the show and him being the reason why they've been so consistent, you can't have those doubts now. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, those doubts died after they won in 2017. Even though they still had KD, and I get it, but like, he still had to make them play together. You know what I mean? And the defense they played, to me, was even better under Steve Kerr than it was under Mark Jackson. I feel like the offense was always going to be there when you got the Splash Brothers.
And that's funny because Steve Kerr wasn't looked at as a defensive player at all.
Right.
I don't even think Mark Jackson was, though, either. Mark Jackson is surprisingly one of the top 5 assist guys. Did you know that? Like, the most
I did not know
assists
that.
in league history. I think he's like top 5. At least I know for a fact he's top 10.
Right. No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But see, that explains why he compliments LeBron the way he does about his playmaking. Because he was a playmaker also. But yeah, that's the reason why when you brought that up about the bus, I had to bring up Steve Kerr and Mark Jackson, because there are definitely still people who feel like if Mark Jackson was still here, they would still win. I'm still one of those people, but I'm not like doubting Steve Kerr. Does that make sense?
See, I don't know, so I can't really. Yeah, it makes sense, but
I'm not saying to downplay Steve Kerr. I'm more saying it as the Warriors front office has done a great job drafting Steph, Clay, and Dre. You know what I'm saying? I feel like,
speaking of Draymond, he really looked Kevin Durant in the eye and said, "We won without you. We do not need you," and he meant it.
I mean,
that's pretty dope.
He wasn't lying.
He was not lying. We do not need you. He said, "Dang." Well, how would you feel if you was Kevin Durant right now? How does Kevin Durant feel right now?
I feel like he's playing it cool on Twitter. But I feel like, did you ever see the interview with Kobe and Shaq, where Shaq talked about when Kobe won his 5th, how he tore up everything in his house and he was mad?
Yeah.
I feel like that's Kevin Durant low-key. But he's not going to talk about that right now. He's not going to admit that on Twitter. But I feel like that's him. I'm not going to lie. I feel like he's a little salty. Because when you got somebody who tells you like they don't need you, and then they prove it after they called you and told you that they did need you, and then they tell you have a player on the team tell you to his face they don't need you, and then a couple years later he proves that they don't and they didn't, it hurts. Because you know Dre is eventually it's Draymond Green. You know he doesn't have a tongue, so you know eventually he's gonna say it. Like whether on his podcast or somewhere else. I'm talking about he's just gonna say he was right. Is what I'm saying.
But yeah.
He may not reword it. I mean, he may not say it again verbatim, but I feel like the way you asked me, somebody's gonna ask him. If somebody hasn't already, somebody's gonna ask him, and he's gonna be like, I mean, I was right. And I mean, he was. It's gonna be hard to say no, he wasn't correct. He was correct. So I feel like KD might be a little salty. Also, he's probably salty because I know Warriors fans have been nonstop harassing him. So. And that alone salty also. If I was constantly getting hurt, like I had nothing to do with this. Like I got swept in the first round, nothing to do with this. Why are y'all bothering me?
Yeah, but he knows why. We don't know why. Told him not to go there in the first place. That's his fault. I'm just playing.
You were crazy. I've also seen a lot of people kind of getting on Jayson Tatum for his turnover issues.
He ain't 19 no more though. So
that is true. But see, once again, that's one of those things that I go back to the Warriors just turning up the defense on him. Like I specifically remember
he was 19 for like 4 years.
I know. That's what it seemed like. Yes, that's what it seemed like. But I understand he had the turnovers, and they were horrible. He didn't shoot the best. And Jaylen Brown was the leading scorer for him. But I just feel like this is one of those series and this is one of those teams where they just had his number. And even at one point in some of those fourth quarters when Jaylen Brown was cooking through three quarters, and then in that fourth quarter, they would build a wall down low, kinda, or Dre would just out-muscle Jaylen Brown trying to get to the basket and try to force him into tough shots, and he couldn't hit them. I was just like, this is just great defense. Like, this isn't really the Celtics taking horrible shots. Like, these are shots that they were hitting the first three quarters, just that now the Warriors have turned up their defense and their defensive intensity. So now every shot that the Celtics are taking is contested. Or the layup is a lot more contested. Or it was tougher. You know what I'm saying?
And it's funny because I think a lot of people were picking the Celtics to win this series because of their defense, and it was actually the Warriors' defense that turned up.
Right, which is true. That's another thing. But see, the only reason why I doubted the Celtics defensively a little bit is because of those terrible third quarters that they have been having throughout these playoffs. And I was just like, you can't come out of halftime playing like that. You give teams way too much momentum in the second half. And they got away with it in games 1 and games 3. But they paid for it in games 4, 5, and 6, especially games 4 and 5. Yeah. Actually, you could say game 2 also. But I kind of felt like after Boston won game 1, I feel like everybody knew that the Warriors were going to win game 2.
Yeah, because of the way
or maybe
Boston
I'm crazy, but I just feel like
the Boston won game 1. The Celtics, I should say. Well, I said the Boston Celtics won game 1. Golden State Warriors style.
True.
I knew. I turned around to the people I was watching the game with and said, "This is not happening in that game," and it didn't happen again. The Celtics didn't get that hot again. All series.
I mean, kinda in game 3.
Well, I guess, but
game 3 they kind of did the same thing.
Not in the fourth quarter, game 1. They had like 30. How many threes they had? They had over.
No, 30. I think they had like. It was a crazy amount, but they scored like 40 plus in that quarter though, which is
and the Warriors couldn't hit a shot at all. So, like, if you take that into consideration, and you take it's a 7-game series into consideration, who do you think is going to have that hot quarter? It's going to be the Warriors,
right?
No matter what, even as good as the Celtics defense is. You have shooters like the Warriors have. You have weapons like that. It's unstoppable when they don't want to be stopped.
And then on top of that, right? And then on top of that, you play fantastic defense.
Yeah. You had the defensive player of the year in your team. The first defensive player of the year as a guard, just like Gary Payton. That was that's the perfect thing to have going against a guy like Steph Curry. And it might have worked. It might have worked in a couple of the games, a little bit, but for the most part, Steph Curry was cooking. Hence the reason he won Finals MVP, the very first one. Again, congratulations, Steph Curry.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I completely forgot until Game 4 that Marcus Smart had won Defensive Player of the Year because I think somebody brought it up, and I was like, Defensive Player of the Year. Steph got. I mean, listen, Steph's an all-time great, so like you can't be mad about it. But I was just, I think a lot of people were mad when he won it initially, and then it just brought back up everything that they were saying after Game 4 when the Celtics lost about Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year and how they felt about it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I completely forgot that he had won it.
Yeah, they were building it up like that was going to be the matchup of the finals type thing.
Right.
Well, I saw people building it up like that. I'm like, great offense is going to beat great defense almost every single time.
True, especially the way the game's played today, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching YouTube, right? And you know how random stuff come up on YouTube. I saw a game from 2004. Man, the spacing was, oh my God, like nobody was spacing the floor. And the final score was like 74-72.
Oh, that's crazy.
You don't get games like that no more. I don't necessarily say I'm missing them, but you don't get games like that no more. Even in 2010, Game 6 of the finals in 2010, the final score for the Lakers blowing out the Celtics in Game 6 after losing 2 in a row in Boston, I remember vividly. It was like, the final score was like 87 to 69. And then Game 7 was also very, like 83 to 79. So it very low scoring.
Yeah, that's crazy. Tells you how far the game has come.
It's come a long way. And that was just, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna see no game like that these days.
No. Not anymore.
Especially be considered a good game, because that Game 7 between the Lakers and Celtics was considered one of the greatest games of all time. And the final score was 83 to 79.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
If you, in this era, if a game, no matter how good it was, if a game ended 83 to 79, people gonna say it was trash. Think about even 2016 Game 7. The final score to that was very low. They didn't score for like 6 minutes. Neither team. Before that block LeBron had on Iguodala, that was like in the middle of like 6 or 7 minutes of no score from either team. That was one of the greatest games I've ever seen too. So games like that can be fun, because it's like the teams are playing their heart out to win the championship.
Right.
Defensively.
And you've seen a lot of great defense on both ends.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like we could do a whole episode on spacing and how much it's changed, and how much it's completely changed the game, and how we'll probably never go back to a time where like there's little to no spacing.
Yeah, the thing you got to think about the fact that in the 60s, right, the final scores were like today. It was like they was scoring like the hundreds. Hell, Wilt Chamberlain had 50 points a game. If Wilt Chamberlain scored 50 points a game, you know the other team, like the rest of the team ain't scoring like 10, 12 points. They're scoring more. They were scoring more back then. And then it got to the 90s and the 2000s where defense kind of ramped up and the rules changed, I guess. And the rules changed again, and now we have all this space. It's fun. It's interesting development how the NBA is come. But like, this is not the episode for that. You got anything else to add other than congratulations to the Warriors? Great finals, great playoffs. Looking forward to next season, see what's going on. We didn't talk about the Lakers at all, which is good, because like they don't deserve to be talked about.
No, but we got an episode coming up on them. They'll be brought up with a few other teams. We do have to discuss them.
I like the Darvingham hiring, but we'll talk about that in another podcast. You have anything else to add?
No, congrats to the Warriors winning 4 championships in 6 years. It's huge. Congrats to Steph Curry winning his first Finals MVP. Oh, and being the first winner of the Western Conference Finals Award. I forgot who they named it after, but I'm just gonna call it the Western Conference Finals MVP.
I think it's Magic
Johnson. When you're right, is the East one the Larry Bird?
And I think the East Oscar Robertson or Larry Bird, one of the two.
I don't know who it is, but see, that just sounds weird. I just rather call it Western Conference Finals MVP or Conference Finals MVP, because the Finals MVP is just the Finals MVP.
I mean, I guess
that's like calling the championship trophy. I mean, the championship trophy is called the Larry O'Brien Trophy, but who calls it that?
I mean, they call the Finals MVP the Bill Russell Finals MVP.
Yeah, but nobody says Bill Russell Finals MVP.
Bill Russell be out there to present the trophy most of the time. Was he not?
Yeah, I know, but like, I'm just saying, like, who says? I don't know. I just feel like people don't say the name of the person the trophy's named after all the time.
And yeah, the All-Star game to Kobe Bryant, All-Star game MVP now. But I'm gonna say that one. I'm gonna say the name of that one. Go. Anyway, this has been another episode of the Point Guard Cast. It's good to be back. We'll see y'all next time.
For sure.